So my name is Greg Garcia. I'm with citiesRISE here in Sacramento. I oversee youth engagement work and with youth serving organizations throughout the region. And part of what I want to share with you today is our citiesRISE Sacramento mental health resources for youth. We made this guide in response to the coronavirus pandemic, and we wanted to help young people with some resources that could help them, listen to their friends more. Right now, we're all stuck at home, and we want to be able to have something that we can use. And how do you talk to your friends about how you're feeling? So this guide should hopefully help you kind of have a few things in mind when you're talking to friends, and one of your friends brings up something deep or something really personal, and you want to be there for them. And this guide should be able to help you out. First thing I wanted to talk about is grief. So what we're dealing with right now, I'm sure you might have heard of this already, but there was a few articles that had been out, namely in the Harvard Business Review, talking about grief and COVID-19. So, we're dealing with this unprecedented time, and a lot of things are happening, and we're kind of grieving the loss of our freedoms. If you're a senior in high school, you're grieving not being able to go to prom or being able to graduate, and these are big events. And how you might be a little irritable, it comes out in different ways, but there's kind of like a method to this madness, if you will. And if you look at this chart here, there's a cycle in grief. And the first thing you feel was like a denial. So when I was first learning about, coronavirus, and I saw that happening in China and Asia, I was like, oh, that's never going to reach America. I think we're safe here. And then as soon as things started happening, anger came up, like, how come nobody's doing anything about this? How is it spreading so fast? And then bargaining is the next phase where you're like, oh man, okay, maybe we just stay home, we don't go out to eat, we don't do this, and we'll be safe. Everything will go back to normal in a few days. But no, it gets worse and worse, right? And then next phase of that is depression. You're like, oh my God, how long are we in the house for? We can't do anything. There's no basketball. There's no shows anymore. There's no parties. What the heck, And then you're depressed about it, right? And then finally, at the end, you're back at acceptance. Okay, well, this is reality. At least I'm healthy. My family is here and with me, and I'm able to do what I have to do. So I just got to keep maintaining. So the idea of the cycle doesn't mean that you're going to go through it just one by one like I labeled it, but it's to help you understand that, these emotions are coming at you in different ways. You're going to one day feel depressed about things. Another day you're going to feel okay and you're accepting. Another day you might be in denial, right? So it's just to help you see that there's different things going on, and where you could be on the scale, it could be anywhere, right? And it's okay. It's okay to feel like this because, these are things that it's out of your control, it's out of our control, but being able to kind of put a name to what's happening should help you out. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And for me, as a former musician, I used to always use my emotions to help me get inspired for like some of the songs I used to make. So I used to make hip hop songs, and I would try to kind of dig deep into whatever I was feeling at the time to help me kind of exercise that out, right? So yeah, those were one of the things that I did. But if you don't have that, then the next thing or next best thing to do would be to, talk to somebody about it. And often I know that we just did a survey here in Sacramento, and a lot of young people, prefer to talk to their friends or family before they want to talk to a counselor or a psychiatrist or any other professional in mental health, which is fine. But we also want to be able to give young people, our undivided attention, right? So how do you do that? What if your friend comes to you and says, yo, man, can we talk about this? Something's happening with me. I'm like, yeah, I am. What's going on, right? And then oftentimes people ask me, like, what do I say to that? It's like, well, you really don't have to say anything. You just need to listen. So next slide here is about active listening and talking to your friends about how we're doing, right? Checking in with them. So since you like to talk to your friends, let's give you some skills so that you can be present when somebody's telling you something. You want to be able to listen, and they want to be able to do the same thing for you, right? So there's 4 steps that I usually advise to people. The first one is to be empathetic, not sympathetic, right? Empathy is about validating what somebody's going through. It could be one of those feelings in that grief cycle or anything else, but you're just kind of acknowledging, yeah, you know, that's kind of hard. I get what you're saying. You don't have to say, oh, poor you, blah, blah, blah. That's not helpful, but being empathetic is. Secondly, normalizing the conversation. So maybe it's when you're with your friends, you're on Discord or you're on Instagram Live and you're just checking in, or you're doing something on Zoom with your friends. You know, me and my friends, we just check in. We all kind of just say, yeah, I'm doing good, man. How about you? Oh, yeah, I had a bad day today and here's what happened, right? We're giving, you know, each other opportunity and space to kind of get some stuff off our chest, right? And acknowledge them and thank them for being able to share, because, you know, it's not easy. Our society is not built for this. You know, in capitalism, we're all about, you know, competing and survival of the fittest. But in terms of mental health, it's kind of the opposite, where you have to provide a safe space and be present, right? So it's kind of against our nature a little bit in our society, but by normalizing the conversation, you kind of set a table for people to have deeper conversations. Third thing is active listening, right? To be able to listen without judgment is one of those a few things. To be able to kind of give positive feedback when someone's talking to you. So you want to make sure you're giving your undivided attention. You don't want to be looking at your phone or on your laptop or doing something else while somebody's talking to you, because they're like, man, you're not even listening to me. What's going on? And another thing that I like to tell people is paraphrasing and, you know, what's that word called? Parroting. Parrot like a bird. So when somebody tells you something, you kind of say it back to them, like, so yeah, I had a really bad day today and blah, blah, blah. And I went to the gas station and, you know, this time I got ripped off, blah, 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 blah. And then me as the friend would say, so it sounds like, you know, you had a crappy day and a lot of crap happened to you. Yeah, man, it sucked. So by doing that, you're able to convey to that person that you heard them, right? Oftentimes we listen to respond, or we listen to say something back. But active listening asks and demands that you listen for comprehension. So when you do that, that person is going to appreciate that because they feel heard, right? Even if you don't get it right, like if you say, oh yeah, blah, 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 were you saying this? This is what I heard? They're like, no, I did this instead. At least you're giving them an opportunity to clarify what they're saying and how they're feeling. So the key point here when you're doing active listening is to clarify, listen without judgment, and be able to be present when you're listening with somebody. A final thing to do with this part is open-ended questions. So when you're asking questions, you want to make sure that they're not yes or no questions, you know? So like a good phrase I like to use is, so tell me more about that. What does that mean? You know, instead of saying, do you feel this way? Do you feel like you're going to go here? Yes, no. I mean, that doesn't really give the opportunity for a person to speak. It just kind of gives them a direction. So by having open-ended questions, they're able to provide more information. Finally, the last thing is being okay to say you don't know. We're not all professionals here, and you don't need to be, but you need to be a good listener. And if somebody asks you something, you don't know what it is, it's all right. But you can help get back to them, or you can help find resources for them. That's, you know, more important, you know, than just having a response. Oftentimes people don't want to hear what you have to say, but they just need a place to vent. So those are the 4 tips that I have for active listening. And that's all for my presentation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. That was really Nice to see. Can we ask you a few questions to get a personal pulse on what mental health means to you?
Sure. So,
Yeah.
okay, mental health, what it means to me. Um, since there's a lot of stigma around mental health, I like to talk about it in terms of mental wellness. And mental wellness and mental health to me, I like to think of Hawaii. And when you go to Hawaii, I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii, but it's a very inclusive culture. And my definition of mental health is very inclusive. People often talk about healing, restorative practices, and to me, those are parts of mental health involved in that too. It's how I make myself feel better. It's how I take care of myself. It's how I take care of my family, and making sure that, you know, whatever is in here finds a way out. Like, you know, it's like, to me, it's kind of like energy. You know, if I don't get rid of some of this stuff, it starts to poison me, right? And so I have to kind of exercise it out. But I do that by talking or doing other things. But yeah, I think there's another question about that, so I'll stop.
Yeah, that leads into our question of what do you do to support your mental health, and what are some like take-home practices you can share with our students today?
Sure. So when I was younger, I used to make beats myself, and I would do it every day. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was for my mental health. It was the way I felt alive, that I was creating something, and I'd listen to the song over and over again, critiquing it and changing it up. But at the end of the day, I felt really good because I made something, you know, and we don't get that many opportunities to create in our school, in our work. You know, we're lucky if we have opportunities to create something artistically. And so that was my way of getting that creative energy out. And like I said earlier, utilizing, you know, some of the emotions that were inside me, and helped me kind of realize, oh, wow, I needed that. I don't realize that I was holding that in until it came out in the music, right? Another thing I do to support my mental health is to talk. I talk to my wife about everything, every little thing, you know, if everything's going okay. And even though if it's hard for me to say it, I have to talk about it, right? And then another thing too, I do like physical exercise, bike riding, jogging, basketball. Those are things that help me get stress out. So if I'm stressed about something, or if I'm trying to figure out a solution for something at work, and I go on a bike ride, my brain starts to kind of, you know, organize everything. And by the end of the bike ride, I have an idea that I never thought of before, because, you know, my brain was allowed to, you know, have some exercise or some, I don't forget how that works, but, you know, I'm able to clear my mind. It's kind of like a meditation, I guess, if you will. The constant working and exercising that helps get me in a place where I can be at peace with things.
Yeah. So what if someone was in an environment or space where they just don't have a lot of people to talk to or feel comfortable talking or checking in? Do you have any spaces or places that they can go to where there is a comfortable environment to share and speak to someone?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for this day and age, there's a lot of things that can happen online. There's a lot of links. Like here in Sacramento, there's called the Sacramento Children's Home. They have this program called The Source. There's the Youth Help Network, and they're on Instagram. You should check them out. And they're offering, you know, a lot of different things, whether it's like a virtual game night, challenges online, or they have different ways to engage with young people through social media. And I think that's really cool, because you can kind of do it in the privacy of your own home. And if you don't, even if you don't have anybody, you can at least reach out to somebody online and just say a few things like, yeah, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, would you say some of those places that you've shared are good places to go as we're kind of, you were sharing, stuck at home right now and looking for like extracurricular activities and spaces for well-being? Were those local places the ones you'd recommend?
Yeah. And even with my job, at times we do these things called virtual pop-ups. In Sacramento, we have these activities called pop-ups, where it's, you know, late night activities for young people, and they're throughout the city. But with COVID-19 taking over, all those things were shut down. So, you know, I've been doing workshops on how to do virtual pop-ups and teaching people how to use Zoom and all these other things that help people stay connected to the youth. So we have game night sometimes, and then, you know, we just kind of building with people and getting introduced to people that work at different mental health places, and you're hanging out with them, playing games like Scribble.io or Kahoot, you know, Kahoot quizzes online, stuff like that. What were you going to say?
Where did you say we can find those online offerings that you're doing right now?
Oh, well, we haven't had one scheduled yet, but I mean, there's a lot of providers, and I can send you a few links to some of the providers that we have. Actually, they're on here. I'm sharing the screen here.
Awesome.
So think about this. This is a flow chart. Like if you're in crisis, these are the organizations you can click on. And the link will take you to here. And then if
great. That's something we can share. So my last question brings me to, what is one key action students can implement in their lives to take care of their overall well-being? Like one last takeaway that could hit it home.
For me, as a person of color and Filipino, I'm very communal in terms of like me, my family, community. And I like to take care of my community. But before I do that, I have to make sure that I'm taken care of. And so I have to do the things I need to do to make me feel okay so I can take care of other people. And that includes you know, maybe it's for me, it's bike riding. It could be meditation for somebody else. It could be yoga. You know, essentially it's not letting these little things and emotions that are, you know, eating you inside, you know, stay in. You have to find a way to get those out. And, you know, hopefully you're able to put it into music or art, but that's, you know, one way. You have to deal with those things. Otherwise it builds up, right? And it turns into something else. And, you know, it's okay, you know, but it helps to kind of, you know, let it off. Like imagine a big, like a steam, like a pressure cooker. And if the pressure keeps building, it'll eventually explode. But if you have little valves, little outlets, you'll be able to get rid of some of that pressure. You don't have to do it all at once, but find ways that give you outlets for things so that the pressure is manageable.
Awesome. Thank you for that honest share. Where can we keep up with you, and how could students stay engaged and up to speed on your work and citiesRISE?
Yeah, look for us online. We're going to have our own webpage on the citiesRISE webpage. So cities-rise.org. Look for the Sacramento page. I don't know how long it's going to be. It's going to be a minute though, but I can send you a few links too if you want to get a hold of me and my email. Yeah, and maybe you can join us in a few events that we do, the virtual one.
Thank you so much for your time. This was part of our mental health series, so thank you for joining and doing this for our students. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.